Hey guys, I'm Sarah Cooperman and I'm the CEO of SCW Fitness Education, and we're here at Dallas Mania with these amazing women because we had a few no-shows, which was all my fault, but I'm just gonna blame them. But anyway, I hand-picked these amazing women to help lead this session. We have over 300 people registered. We're expecting about going to guess between 75 and 80 of you guys to show up live. So I'm thrilled to have you here. Our wonderful Dan Fox is running this webinar, so I'm very excited that he's here as well to keep us all in line. And we're going to be talking about resilience through recovery and how rest is strength. Very, very important stuff. We're going to try to discover how intentional recovery builds stronger, more resilient bodies and minds. Some of the things we've learned over our years in fitness, the stupid things we did in our 20s, learn the science behind, yes, a runner, yes, the cycling on like weird mountains. Learn the science behind rest, active recovery, sleep, and stress management, all in an hour, because Melissa just loves condensing everything. And I'm going to introduce our wonderful panelists. I'm going to do this rather quickly, so I apologize if I miss anything. Kelly Roberts is an ACSM exercise physiologist. She's a decorated fitness professional with every ACE certification imaginable. Also NASM corrective exercise, FAI aging specialist. She's also an inductee into the Fitness Hall of Fame, and she's earned Ideas Award for National Fitness Instructor of the Year. Speaking of which, to her left is Christine Conti, also a winner of the Idea World Fitness Instructor of the Year. We've never won, but that's okay. That's okay. But Christine is the CEO of Fix Now. It's an amazing company that offers a lot of video and certification training that's completely online. She's an international educator, chronic disease advocate, keynote speaker. You should see her on Facebook. The things she does to help underprivileged and developmentally impaired individuals to complete their physical goals is just so inspiring. I get chills. She's a former teacher and banker turned Ironman, which I think is awesome. Anything is possible is Christine's motto. Then we have the lovely Melissa Lane. Okay, I just love Melissa Lane. I hate what she has to say because I shouldn't drink alcohol and I'm sure I shouldn't have carbs after 6 p.m. I don't know what I'm not supposed to do. She's a kinesiology department faculty member at the University of North Georgia. She's been a well-respected and well-loved fitness nutrition leader for over 35 years, although you'd never know it from the way she looks. She leads so many certifications for us because she's such an expert on nutrition and menopause and active aging. And not only does she hold a master's of education in exercise science, but a bachelor's degree in physical education and an associate's degree in medical technology. And then we have Amber Toole, who's my favorite walking partner. Sorry, guys, but she is. She's a faculty member with an expertise in fitness, nutrition coaching, and studio management, and she holds a degree in physical education and health. She brings 30 years of experience. She started her own business, grew it into her own studio. Now she also has a second studio, so she does group fitness. She does a ton of personal training, and now she's an expert in Pilates as well. And she's from Florida, and she really helps people transform their lives. Very interesting. And all these wonderful women just share their expertise so generously with SCW. I really thank you guys. I appreciate it. Kelly, I'm going to start with you. Okay. Why is recovery essential for physical progress?
Well, training is the stress. When we train, we stress our body. When we recover is when we get stronger. And that's true of strength training as well as endurance training. So people always think of strength training as something you have to recover from, but not in hard endurance training, but actually HIIT, high intensity interval training, as well as steady state, long duration endurance training are things that you really do need to recover from in a very intentional way. So that could be things like going for a slow, flat, gentle walk, or if you do a lot of cycling, go for a very easy, it could be stationary ride or flat, low geared, high cadence, low intensity. Keep your heart rate, for me, below 100. So heart rate between wattage at 60 to 80. So it's very low intensity. It's very, very low intensity. And you maintain that steady state for anything between 30 to 60 minutes.
Now, before we turned the camera on, Kelly, we're chatting about how often during the week you work at a high intensity and what days you take off and how you manage that.
Well, I'm an endurance cyclist, so I do long distance cycling, as well as I teach a lot of strength and other things. So 2 days a week, I do low end endurance, and that is keeping my heart rate between 100 to 110, maybe 115. And so 2 days like that. One day is intentional recovery, keeping my heart rate below 100, a day of rest, and then the other days are harder, longer, high intensity days.
And, one thing that I found interesting is that there was a marvelous study done by Hunter et al. It's an older study, but it talks about recovery and the importance. And as you age, you actually need a longer recovery time, which I've experienced personally. Everybody's nodding. All right, throw this to Christine. But it's like, what happens as we age? Why do we need this longer recovery time and what does that mean?
So first, I would say that it's really important to show our clients, our participants, what happens to a muscle when it breaks down. I think that's number one, because we tell them, hey, muscles break down and then you've got to sleep and that's when they build back. But do they really understand what that is and what that looks like? There are such amazing different, I would say, there's AI has built these as well, and different graphics and videos that you can watch that actually shows you. And I will sit down and I will send these to people and say, okay, you just did this. What did you do to recover? And when we're younger, our muscles tend to, I don't want to say, underplay this, but they bounce back. They recover faster. And then as we get older, you can have different autoimmune diseases or different, various arthritis, things like that. And it affects your recovery time. As we get older, it used to be a day and now it's 2 days. I want everyone to think about, when you used to go party, okay? And what that does to everybody as we get older, we're like, we'll be good tomorrow. No, you will not be. Okay? No, you're not. And think about that and use these things as that's what's happening to your muscles. They need extra time. And to your point, you were like, I go on these longer, low intensity, and that could actually be recovery for somebody. And, when you say you do, you have an off day, it doesn't mean that you're like in bed with the covers over your head, because that's some people think that. Recovery should be, you're still moving, you're still walking, you can stretch, you can go do something gentle. Don't get your heart rate up to 190, turn into She-Hulk. These are the things that we should be thinking about. You're still moving your muscles, you can still use body weight, but you're not really breaking things down. That is still recovery.
All right, Miss Science over here. You got to talk to me about what's happening to the muscle when we're actually working it.
Okay, so you have in your muscle fiber, you have things called Z lines and A zones and just a bunch of different geographical places that keep your muscles together with the myosin and the actin. And when your muscle gets damaged, whether it is from a hard endurance ride or whether it is from a weight training session, you do what is known as muscle streaming. So instead of looking at a cross section of a muscle under a microscope where everything is in line, where you can literally see all the sections of your myofibril, you actually see where the myofibril has like streamed, like something has melted and is running down a slide. And that's your damage. It is actually called muscle streaming, okay? And so now we have to make sure that we have the hormones present to put that muscle back together, which does take longer as we get older because we don't have the same hormone makeup as we did earlier. Although everybody knows that you need testosterone, growth hormone, and insulin-like growth hormone to grow a muscle effectively, people also forget about estrogen. When you go through menopause and estrogen drops to 50%, you actually need estrogen to help start the satellite cell theory, which is how you rejuvenate. If you're in the situation where Kelly would be working out too much, your cortisol levels are too high, and now you are chronically high in a cortisol level, which is increasing inflammation because cortisol is pro-inflammatory. So now you're not going to get the recovery of the muscle streaming correction.
I find that fascinating. I also find what's interesting is I wrote an article, I think it was in our last newsletter on plunging, because I thought maybe that's going to help me recover. Like maybe that's going to help me recover. Women do not have to plunge as cold as men do. And another thing is after you strength train, you should not plunge. And then this is another thing I applied. I have a bad back. Everybody knows I have a horrible attitude, a bad attitude, and a bad back. So with the back, I was doing strength training, and then what I would do is immediately after I would ice my back. And I'm like, Sarah, what are you doing? That's the area that I need to help hypertrophy the muscle, increase its endurance, its strength. I need that strength training. So the articles that I've read and the research I read is you've got to wait at least, especially as an older adult, especially as a woman, at least 2 hours after you strength train before you plunge or before you ice. So I thought that was very fascinating, and that really, really helped me. And I really agree with Kelly and Christine as well about the needing the recovery. Because if I do yoga every single day, I know people think yoga, oh, it's flexibility, I'm breathing, look at the feathers in my hair. You know, that's not what I'm looking at. It's a workout, and I can't do it every day. I've got to do yoga one day, I do strength training the next, I do yoga another day, I walk the dog, either the dog or Amber, I'm not sure which, and we walk. But what are your thoughts, Amber?
I had a question for Melissa, actually. Is cortisol catabolic to
It
muscle?
depends it depends on whether it is acute or chronic. Acute cortisol is what we want. We want everything to go up, but then we have to recover and come down. That is going to be anti-inflammatory. But when you have chronic cortisol levels from overtraining and not recovering, that's when cortisol becomes inflammatory. A little bit of something is good, but something that stays high for a long time is not good.
And it's interesting, if somebody's intense, somebody who's like working really hard and they're going through a stressful situation, sometimes they need to exercise. How does that type of cortisol then, it helps me release and relax? Not that it's me that gets tense about anything.
So you're saying if one of your children is making a not so good personal decision and it chronically stresses you, so your cortisol level goes up, now you're going to go exercise. Okay. So remember, when your cortisol level goes up, your body doesn't know whether you have a child who's making a dumb decision or whether you're exercising. All your body knows is it's time to fight or flight. So your liver glycogen comes out of your liver and goes into your bloodstream. Your fat is mobilized from your fat cells into your bloodstream, and your muscle glycogen is on red alert. So if you are chronically stressed and you go work out, you're going to utilize those energy sources. But if you are chronically stressed because your child did something wrong, and you don't go work out, and you don't go work out, then all those things that were mobilized to fight the bear actually get stored as visceral fat, which is more dangerous to your vital organs because it's closer to your hepatic artery and your carotid arteries and those things.
Well, now, but it does, I'm just, of course, it's all about me, but if I'm in a stressful situation and I can go out and walk, or I used to go for a run, but I would, go out and walk. And it reduces my stress level. Now, what about that? I mean, I think that's a good thing.
That is your vagus nerve, specifically your parasympathetic nervous system, from being outdoors, setting your circadian rhythm. So we're not only talking about cortisol levels, but we're talking about your circadian rhythm, which plays a major role in your cortisol levels.
A positive role.
Yes, if you see sunlight first thing in the morning, or if you go outside during the day as it's starting to set, your body sets itself for the circadian rhythm, helps you sleep better, reset your cortisol levels. Because ideally, your cortisol levels should be the lowest point of the day at night before you go to bed. But we're not good at that because some people send emails like right before they go to bed. And that's the worst thing that you can possibly do for your cortisol levels, because your cortisol should be dropping at night.
Would you put,
Got that?
what is with your eyebrows? Okay.
Well, because we're scrolling, and we're like, oh, no, I have to answer Sarah. No, but really, that's a great point to make, and that's why you hear people say, stop with the blue light, put your phone away before bed. And if you look at how all of this comes together, although we're talking about rest and recovery, all of the foundational things play into that for your health. So getting up and seeing that sunlight in the morning, watching the sunset at night, not looking at your phone, being able to sleep better through the night, because now we're going to go back to what all three of them were talking about, is you have to sleep and get that deep sleep for your body to do the recovery piece to your brain. It's not just your muscles, it's also our brains that are recovering during that sleep cycle. So when we look at rest, we also need to talk about that sleep piece, which Melissa is always so good about helping us to know what to do to sleep better.
And I like the way at the, I know it sounds silly, but I walk my dog at night and I make sure that the sun is going down. It's not pitch black out, but the sun is going down and it's a way to decompress. Listening to music on my phone. Sometimes I listen to a podcast, which that's probably bad. Is that bad? But I like Malcolm Gladwell. He calls me once in a while, we text. But no, it's a great podcast. Malcolm Gladwell's Revisionist History, if you guys enjoy podcasts. Or Acquired. There's another, why am I talking about this? Acquired is a great podcast. It's like a 3-hour podcast on a business like Starbucks or Google, and you go through. IKEA was fascinating, the whole history of the business, but it's very personal. Okay, but you don't want me to listen to Acquired? You have something against Malcolm Gladwell?
No, but you need to do that in the morning because you're ramping up your brain at night, right before you go to bed. And aren't you already like that?
Maybe.
And all of my ladies who are menopausal, your brain is on that constant. You have to turn that off.
That's interesting. And okay, you deal with a lot of clients. How do you encourage them and get them to shut it off?
So interestingly enough, I, for some reason, attract a lot of type A people as my clients, and they don't like to turn it off. They are also, people my age, around our age, we were raised that you have to go, 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 hard, hard, hard all the time. If you're not sweating and you still have your makeup on after you get done working out, you didn't do it right. So we have that kind of drilled in our head. It's really breaking those old myths that we were taught when we were younger, in our 20s, as we were talking about earlier, and 30s and 40s, like you said. But it's first off educating. So helping my clients to understand that I want them to get the best results out of the workouts that they have when they come to see me, a part of that is going to be the recovery. So if all they ever do is do super hard workouts and work out and do all these classes and run and all of these things when they're not with me and then come in and I do a challenging workout with them, they're not getting that rest in to actually get the results. They're doing, as I think Melissa was saying, the overtraining, or you said, they're overtraining. Now we're increasing our risk for sickness. We're increasing our risk for injury. You get injured, you're out for how many weeks? How long does it take you to recover from something? So really making this a part of your entire fitness plan. You do need to have smart workouts planned in there, but you also have to have the rest days and the recovery days put in as well. Look at what Kelly said as an example. She is a high-level athlete. She's working on very specific goals, but she still makes the time to put that recovery in because she knows how important it is. It's the same thing for our clients. Even if they are not high-level athletes, they are still active people that need to incorporate that. And it might be, we've all said some examples. It might be the gentle walk in nature. It might be a little bit of stretching. We really like to get our clients to do mobility work. Really great little sequences that you can do before bed. And think about that. If we're talking about sleep and how important that is, if you actually have a plan where you go out, you're walking like you do with your dog right before bed as the sun's going down, you're increasing the chance that you might sleep well. Then if you do a little short recovery, mobility stretching right before bed, you're allowing your body to just rest and come down. And again, we're supporting that really great sleep that we need.
And sleep is key.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we know, I have 4 sons and, frankly, all 4 of them played travel hockey at one time, but at my 3rd son, was at a very high level, club team at University of Michigan, and he got a very bad concussion. And what I learned from the concussion is the only time your brain can recover is during sleep. Yeah, go ahead, Kelly. Yeah, deep sleep. And
It's deep sleep. It's the deep sleep where your brain recovers. So
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what, it was very, very important.
Just want to clarify this fact. A lot of people think that deep sleep is actually REM sleep. Deep sleep is not REM sleep. Deep sleep is stage 3 and 4, and a lot of research experts put them together because there's so little difference between 3 and 4. But non-REM stage 3 and 4 is deep sleep. Your brain is actually most active in REM sleep. So deep sleep is actually non-REM stage 3 and 4.
Well, explain what the different stages are. Like, do you go into REM and then you go deep, deep, deep into 3, 4, and then when you come out of it, are you doing REM?
Okay, so you go to bed and you're in non-REM stage 1. The average person stays in that for about 10 minutes. And that's what you see on an airplane when people's head goes down and they hit their chin and they wake back up. People go, no, I was not asleep. That's stage 1. Nothing physiologically happens. Your heart rate doesn't drop. Your blood pressure doesn't change. Stage 2 is when you physiologically start changing things. This is when you are true sleeping. Your heart rate drops, your temperature drops, your blood pressure drops. Now you're going to enter into stage 3 and 4 of non-REM, which could be considered one stage. It takes you about an hour to get through all of your non-REM stages. Then you go into your first REM stage, and it's very short. Then you circle back up to the top. I'm a very light sleeper, so I go back to stage 1, and I basically wake up every time I roll over. Somebody who's not a deep sleeper doesn't go back to stage 1. They go back to stage 2 and go through it again. As the night goes on, your non-REM, stage 3 and 4, and your REM get longer. And we know that you make the most growth hormone in your first push of non-REM 3 and 4, which is why drinking alcohol before you go to bed is so bad, because alcohol disrupts your
Because
But you asked me this question
all the time.
So Alcohol disrupts your sleep cycles, so you lose that first big of growth hormone.
Mm.
However, testosterone is made in your longest REM, which is right before you get up in the morning. Think about what happens to a male right before they get up in the morning. That's because their testosterone push is so big. Okay, and then insulin-like growth factor, which follows growth hormone, does the same thing growth hormone does. It's during that first non-REM. So that's why that's so important. The average person cycles through about 6 times per night, depending on how well they sleep.
Interesting. That's fascinating. She discovered that. All right, so Christine, what's the difference between rest and recovery? Rest and recovery.
This is a great question. Great one. And number one, the elephant in the room. I know that I'm on this panel of recovery. And yes, I do take recovery. That's number one. So there's a huge difference between rest and recovery. When we're talking about sleep, sleep doesn't necessarily mean you're resting. You're sleeping. Totally different. Rest is not just physical, it's also mental. So when we think about, you talked about the blue light, we talk about stop, with all the alcohol. Yes, I love a good glass of wine before I go to bed. However, it's not for everyone, right? This is not, there's not a blanket answer. But what we have to think of is our body needs rest. Just because, hey, I get 8 to 10 hours of sleep every night, that doesn't mean I'm rested. That doesn't mean, again, we talk about the cortisol, we talk about all the hormones, we talk about everything that goes on in our body and our brains. You need to start putting things into your day that give you rest, that give you mental and physical rest, because it could be 5 minutes that you go outside and you walk and you touch the ground and you're out and you see the sun and it starts to set, or you're lighting up your parasympathetic nervous system is what we're doing, which brings things down. And we think of, everyone talks about there's things like tapping, right? And what's interesting is when people go out and walk, that rhythmic of walking with your, 1 foot at a time, that actually lights up your parasympathetic nervous system. And everyone has their own thing. Like some people will lightly cycle, some people will color, some people will listen to their favorite music. We should not be scrolling the things that make you, this is not rocket science, but we don't realize that just because you got 8 to 10 hours of sleep doesn't mean you're rested. And for many of us, we get up and we're like, you're stressed out as soon as that alarm goes off, but you got 10 hours of sleep, which that would be great if we did get 10 hours of sleep, but it's not the same thing. And that's what I want people to think about when we talk about recovery.
Yeah, and it's also, I'm just gonna say, it's also different for different people. Like, oh no, blue light, blue light. Well, I have a stupid game I play on my phone. I love this little game, and it's like, I haven't even a wordscape, or I don't know what it is. And
It's your whoopee.
it's my whoopee.
See?
It's my
There it
little
is.
whoopee. And the other thing I love to do, I'm like saying all that, but I love to watch an older movie that I've watched, like Notting Hill. Like I've watched it 9,000
Golden
times.
Girls.
You know what? Don't share that with people. But it's because it makes us feel good. It's like my husband wants to watch these violent movies. I'm like, Outlander, okay, there's good sex scenes, but I don't want to see all the violence going on there right before I'm going to bed. But if on Netflix, I know it's a screen, it might be my phone, it might be the TV in the hotel room, whatever. If it's a movie that like sets down, I know it's going to be a happy ending. It's got to be a happy ending. I watched Zoolander the other day. It's classic.
Fantastic.
I know, but those are certain rest things. So there are triggers that work. Now, it helped me here. At a certain age, you start waking up in the middle of the night, whether you've had a glass of wine or not. You wake up in the middle of the night. How do we deal with that? How do we get back to sleep with that? Oh, give her the.
I'm gonna give
microphone.
this over after I say that some
Yeah.
of these techniques that we think about with the music and the deep breaths and the I love white noise, things like that, sometimes they start to you condition yourself. So it's a lot of behavioral things that you can do, but
Newest research, this is so cool, I think I told you this. When you have another living, breathing thing in the room with you, in the middle of the night, if you sleep with your windows closed, your CO2 that comes out when you exhale actually takes your body out of homeostasis because it doesn't recirculate in the room, especially if you keep with the door closed. So if you sleep with your dog in the room or another person, by the way, they show that people get the best sleep when they sleep with their dog as opposed to another person. Just FYI.
I've told Al that over and over again.
But the CO2 coming out of homeostasis is often known to wake us up. So crack the door or crack the window. If you do get up, and usually when we wake up, I can usually tell what time it is when I wake up because the first thing I say to myself is, do I have to go to the bathroom? If I don't have to go to the bathroom, it's only about 1 or 2 o'clock. But if I have to go to the bathroom, it's probably 4 or 5. If you have to go to the bathroom and you want to go back to sleep, on the way to the bathroom, count 1, 2, 3, 4. Until you get done with the bathroom, go back to bed and lay in bed. If you don't count, what do our brains start doing? Reliving every stupid thing we've done for the past 20 years and how we could have answered a question differently. But if you are counting, you can't rethink about something else. That's the theory behind counting sheep.
Everybody, 1, 2, 3. Ah.
So Melissa talks about the science, but as far as sleep goes, and Christine actually she said it over there. I don't know if you have the mic, that it's behavioral. So we have to look at what our habits are. You have to create a nighttime routine that is setting your brain and your body up for you to go to sleep. So it could be going and walking. So I like dinner, I go for a walk. That also helps with digestion. It's just a gentle walk outside. I come in, I sit on the couch, I do a little bit of stretching. I read a couple of pages in a book and I go to bed. So set up some kind of a routine that you do every single night. Yes, skincare is really important. Oh yeah, I do that before bed every night. Skincare, you get our age, got to do that skincare every night. So it's your body and your brain is now used to that habit and that routine. I want you to think about something. You actually follow routines all throughout your day and everything you do. Your day is built upon habits. So if you imagine when you get up in the morning, if you shower or take a bath or whatnot, think about what you do when you get into the shower. You bathe the exact same way every single day. It's a habit that you do. You can do that with your sleep. The other part to that for your sleep is you need to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, sometime within about an hour's time. So that again, your body is getting into that consistent routine. When it's 9 o'clock, my body knows it's time to go to bed. We go to bed. Then we wake up 6 o'clock, whatever time it is. And I don't know, this isn't really about rest and recovery, but for some people, a little nighttime snack helps to not wake up in the middle of the night. Fiber, a little bit of protein, tiny bit of fat.
No chips.
No chips.
Okay. All right, and with rest and recovery, how did you discover this? How did you figure out what's your balance? How did you make it work?
I actually discovered recovery through a coach. I was racing, I was doing a lot of bike races, and I would either come first or last, depending on how tired I was. And I was teaching a lot and riding a lot, so I was chronically tired, and every now and then I'd win. So I was like, oh, what's going on here? So I hired a coach because I went to the national championships and I just won the state championships. I went to national championships and got my kicked. I did, yeah, I got my butt kicked. So I hired a coach because I wanted to go back to nationals again. And one of the first things he had me do was an intentional recovery ride because I was teaching a lot of HIIT. I was teaching like 5 cycling classes a week. I was going out on weekends and riding 60 miles on Saturday and mountain biking on Thursday and 4 hours mountain biking on Sunday. And I was just tired all the time. So he would have me, and the instructions were ride embarrassingly slow, keep your heart rate below 110. And it was the hardest ride for me to do. Like a 90-second interval hill repeat was easier to do than a 60-minute recovery ride because I was used to pushing all the time. But I went in a season from being hit or miss to winning the season and top 10 at nationals. So I was like, okay, well, there's something to this recovery because that was the main difference in my training. So ever since then, I've been very intentional with my recovery. And I think you don't have to be an athlete to appreciate what it can do for you, because if you're doing high intensity interval training and you're getting anaerobic regularly, then you need to be intentional about your recovery, because epinephrine, norepinephrine, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol levels are all, I read that epinephrine and norepinephrine elevate 14.5 times above baseline when you're doing a HIIT workout. That means your sleep is going to be disrupted, especially if you're doing that at night. So you want to look at not just your sleep routine, but also your workout routine to make sure that if you're going to do that HIIT workout, do it earlier in the day and keep your night workouts for something gentle, steady, stretching, something that's going to feed you into a deeper sleep, because then your sleep will be more restful and you'll feel so much better.
Another pro to doing a hard workout in the morning is not only that you have time to drop your epinephrine and your norepinephrine, but your cortisol levels actually rise during the night. As you go through your REM stages and your brain solves your problems, your cortisol levels go up. It's actually high levels of cortisol that make you wake up without an alarm because your brain is so active. So think about it. Your cortisol levels have now mobilized all your fuel sources because they think you're going to fight the bear. So if you will go and do that hard workout in the morning, you have fuel sources that are mobilized. So not only will it help in your recovery and timing that recovery at night, but it will actually help your workout in the morning.
Interesting. And when you're working with your athletes, I mean, you do these triathlons, right? These Ironman, which is the craziest, ridiculous thing I've ever heard about. What are you shaking your head for, Kelly, over there?
So what's interesting is that same thing with the recovery. If you're gonna go, you're gonna break down your body. The one thing that I have to say about this recovery, if you are an athlete, if you are a higher level athlete, is that you can be doing something every day, but it cannot be the same thing. It cannot be, if you're cycling, you cannot be cycling 7 days a week. Even if you're going for the Tour de France, right? We've got to be doing something else because you've got to be working all your plans. You have to have multi-planner exercises. You need to, for someone like me who's doing these Ironmans, it's not every day am I running, not every day am I cycling, not every day am I swimming. They're different muscles. Heart rate is not always going to be at a HIIT capacity because that's not what it's about. So these are some of the things I think when we talk about recovery, it's, are you doing different things? Think about injury, right? You're breaking down your muscle. We need our recovery. We need the sleep. We also need the release of stress and tension. Yes, we are dealing with our cortisol, but that's one of the most important things to think about. What are you doing? Because when you're not running, you're recovering from running, and now we're in the pool. We're non-weight bearing, right? We're protecting those joints, but maybe we're getting that heart rate up. Maybe I'm not out of breath. Maybe I am. But these are the things that, and you said about hiring a coach. Please don't try and figure this out on your own with social media or an influencer of your choice. Please make sure that you talk to someone that is certified, that has been through this before. You don't want to hire a coach for Ironman that's never done an Ironman before. You know, what is it like to be out there for 13, 14, 15, 17 hours? It's, you know, you want to make sure people understand this whole recovery thing. Okay. So, you know, what Melissa's talking about with some of the science, you need to know this, and you need to make sure that your trainer or your coach knows this stuff.
And not just theoretically, just physically as well. Amber.
I just wanted to go back to your question. You started with Kelly about how did you figure out this whole rest and recovery thing? And I thought, just to share really quickly what happened with me, we've talked about how we change as we age. Our body does not recover as quickly as it used to. When you go through menopause and your hormones change, so does your recovery as well. And I think sometimes women don't realize that. So for me, I've always weight trained, and I did like 4 weight training workouts a week. And something that started to happen with me was I was sore all the time. That's not normal. And then, and I'm somebody who understands soreness. It's not a big deal, but I started to realize even if I did a weight training workout, and maybe not even that super hard, but like days later, I was like, why am I still sore? Well, I was postmenopausal, and that's why. And so I had to really change what I was doing. So that was something my body was giving me signs that it was not recovering well. And for me, that was the sign, was that constant soreness all the time.
One of the signs that you might notice when you're not recovering is actually your mood.
Yeah.
One of the greatest indicators of overtraining is your mood. Feeling irritable, depressed. Depression is another one that when you're overtrained, you will feel irritable, depressed. Altered mood states are a primary
Indicator.
indicator
Yeah.
of overtraining. And because cortisol suppresses your feel-good hormones, your serotonin, thank you, your neurotransmitters, the neurotransmitter serotonin. So it's very important to have intentional recovery that involves stretching, foam rolling, easy walks outside, things like that.
And I'm gonna bring this to also lifestyle, okay? I find that for me, I'm working, going during the week. When Saturday comes, my husband wants to get up early, we take a yoga class, and he goes to his office. I cannot work on a Saturday. I've even tried. I've like tried to push myself to get more done because I'm thinking, well, Sunday should be my day of rest, nice Jewish girl, like, wrong day, Sarah, Saturday. I can't do anything on Saturday. Sunday I can work. I feel like I've quote unquote recovered. It happens when you're a full-time employee or employer or a full-time parent or a full-time whatever. We're all full-time. That we need this recovery, and it really helps you mentally, like you were saying, that you get crabby. It's like if you take a step back, it's like you can handle more of the stress of life, whether it's physical, like we talk about cortisol being a physical that we get that from HIIT, or that we just get from our students or our kids, etc. I love naps, okay? Like, I know Melissa keeps telling me that you gotta get a full night's sleep, and it's like naps don't make up for the night's sleep, okay? But then they're so wonderful. Like but then it does, if I have a nap during the day, it interrupts my sleep at night. Yeah.
Research shows for the average person, and again, everybody's different, but between a 20 and a 30-minute nap should not disrupt your nighttime sleep cycles, because in that 20 to 30 minutes, you're not going into REM. You may be going into non-REM stages 3 and 4, but you're not going into REM. So between 20 and 30 minutes. Now, I will say this when we talk about weekends, there is some new research coming out that shows you can't make up for poor sleep during the week. So that's why they talk about always going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time. But there's some pretty promising research coming out that shows if you sleep in 1 or 2 hours on the weekend, it actually increases your neurotropic factors in your brain to lay down new neurons. So again, relatively new research.
Neurotropic.
Yeah, neurotropic.
So go ahead, explain the neurotropic, what the heck that
Making
is.
new neurons.
So it makes me smarter.
Or it keeps you from getting dementia, or it improves your balance because there's all those neurons up there. Or it plays a role in your prefrontal cortex, so you don't do not so,
Stupid things.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
bad decisions.
I wanted to say, and to connect the dots there, so you're talking about naps, I love naps too. But think about somebody, we were talking about you and your brain and always going. Think about what happens when you actually take that 20 to 30 minute time, even if you don't necessarily sleep, but you're shutting off, trying to work, do stuff all the time.
I feel like this is a therapy session for me, okay? I don't know how I feel about this.
My
But-
coaching fee just went up.
But, and I do find that when like I shut down, like if I'm working on one of my little puzzle things, I'm like, and I'm stuck. And I just put the phone down, I stop at the thing and I go do something and I come back to it. The answer is right there. It's amazing. And is that just because of my neurofrontal lobe?
Your prefrontal
Thank
cortex,
you, thank you.
that's usually your inhibitions. That's the first part of your brain that's acted on when you drink alcohol, which is why you've heard the song Alcohol Makes Her Clothes Fall Off.
Yeah.
Because you lose your inhibitions. So no, it's usually not
It's not
your
a
prefrontal.
risky, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not your
It's
prefrontal
Western
cortex.
girl.
It's another part of your brain.
Okay.
We have a question from an audience. Remember, if anybody wants
Yeah,
to
yeah.
take it.
Dan says we have a question from the audience.
So somebody says, how do you tell the difference between moodiness from overtraining and moodiness from premenopause?
Okay, how do you tell the difference between moodiness from menopause and moodiness
From overtraining.
from overtraining?
So that's a great question. I would say one thing I would look at would be your motivation levels for training. If you're feeling unmotivated about training, it might be overtraining. If the irritation might be connected to your training.
I would say the same thing. Look at your schedule. Some of the things that, if we're talking to fitness professionals, right, we have to remember this right now, and we're talking about recovery and rest and overtraining. Please tell me you're not teaching 100% of all of your classes. Can we, no one said this yet. We still have this feeling like I've got to just grind out like 4 or 5 classes, and we're not telling you to, well, say no to someone. And just because we know that some people out there, you're living paycheck to paycheck, right? You need to take on the client. You need to keep that class going. But what do you really need to do with your body? Can you get off? Can you correct? Can you walk around? I mean, these are the soft skills that are going to build your business. Those connections that you make. It's not how hard you can cycle on that bike that's going to get someone to hire you. It's how you coach. How do you make someone feel? No one's going to remember what your cue was yesterday, but they're going to remember, wow, she made me feel amazing. And, even with the naps, I'm turning my brain off. I'm teaching myself to walk away for a second. So again, when you think of, do I want to teach this class and go all out? Do I want to go for that workout that if you said one night, like, I don't want to go for this walk, like that would, there you go. That's like, wow, this is weird. Ask yourself, what have you been doing? Look at a calendar of what your workout or your training was. And I like to actually break down how I feel. Like the other day, earlier this week, I was like really tired and I wrote that down. And guess what? I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that training that I had planned because it's not going to be worth anything. I'd rather just recover and go out tomorrow and do something. So those are the things to keep track would be my best answer for that, to really think about how you feel, what are you doing, and see what's off.
And
I
then
think the other thing you have to look at is menopausal symptoms, moodiness, and overtraining moodiness hang with me, I'm going somewhere here. One of the classic signs in overtraining that you can see in yourself right away is insomnia. That's a classic sign of insomnia. However, those of you that have been there, got the t-shirt for menopause, that's also a classic sign of menopause. So even though you can't look at how well you're sleeping, and there are going to be mood disturbances in both, one of the best things you can look at is your heart rate variability. So how well your heart rate responds to changes, which is measured in milliseconds, in between your changes in intensity. If you are overtraining, your heart rate variability is going to be low. Menopause, if there's nothing else going on, should still have a heart rate variability that is high. And on an R ring, on a Garmin, does an Apple Watch do heart rate variability?
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Okay, so thing to remember with heart rate variability is high heart rate variability is good. Low heart rate variability means something is off. So that's a good way to kind of help tell the difference between the two. You also become very anhedonic. You don't have great excitement to do anything you used to do when you are overtraining, and that should not happen during menopause.
We've got some more questions here. Somebody, Dina Aldred is wondering if you have any specific advice for somebody 70 and up, 70 years old. and up.
Specific advice for people that are 70 and up
Yes.
for recovery and rest.
Yes.
Yes. Kelly? Okay.
So I train a lot of people, mostly over 50 females. So, and I definitely have a lot of 70 and above. And one of the things, well, first off, not just rest and recovery, but the strength training is important and the balance training, cognitive training, all of those are really important. But yes, that recovery and the rest. So when you go to do things like stretching, you're not trying to get to the point where you're putting your leg behind your head. All right. This is more, I want you to think about your functional movements for your life. Being able to get down and up off of the floor. If you travel, being able to carry your own bag and put it up in the overhead bin. Those kinds of movements. Are you picking up the laundry basket and putting it on top of your dryer? So think about your movements that you have in your daily life. And then I would like to see you move through that range of motion. Again, this is going to be person dependent. You might have some injuries or surgeries or issues that you might have to work around, but to the best of your ability, you want to be able to move your joints through their full range of motion, be able to do your basic activities of daily living and those functional exercises, being able to squat, to sit down and stand up from the toilet, be able to get yourself up off of the ground, be able to push up out of your bed. Think about that. And then I want you to work that recovery piece in there as well through stretching and mobility work of your joints as well.
A very good friend of mine is a national champion cyclist, and he's 81. And he competes at a very high level. And so if you are living at a high level and you are a master's athlete, then recovery has to be intentional. You really want to track things like your heart rate variability, your resting heart rate, to make sure that your resting heart rate is coming down from your workouts, that your heart rate variability is staying reasonably high, that you are feeling motivated and not depressed and not irritable, but also, I mean, older folks can function at a very high level. And so there's no expectation of saying, oh, when you're 70, you have to be able to carry your laundry basket. You can function at very high levels as you get older as an athlete, as well as just a regular gym bug.
My ski buddy is Basil. He's 75 years old. He's amazing. But after a certain age, there is no such thing as one more run. When we're done, we look at each other, we're done. And I remember being young and doing that one more run. That's like 2 of my knee surgeries, is that one more stupid run when I'm tired. So I think when you're talking about somebody who's 70 years old, you know, Amber, you spoke about how you get to a certain age and you have to, you're not recovering the way you used to. So you have to be a little bit more intentional, of course, that everybody's been using that word. Listen to your body, try to find partners that will work with you. I do like working out with younger individuals as well because it's motivating, it's a lot of fun. But I also like working out with the individuals that are older. That's terrific. And just making sure that you get your own balance. Get your own balance. Listen to your body as it changes, which I think is great to do. I did want to know a little bit of nutrition stuff. Like I started doing the magnesium at night. And I found that like the one night I like woke up, I was like, oh, you forgot to take your magnesium. Can you
Can you also mention about all of the different like gummies and things that everybody is on?
what kind of?
All of them.
You gotta help me out a little.
Everyone's the melatonin, and then there's the spiked ones and that's that's, I mean, the more I go out and talk to people, the more they're like, oh, well, I have to sleep with my gummies. I'm like, whoa, this is a thing.
I think we were in Atlanta no, we were in Florida, I think, and had a sleep session. And somebody asked me if THC disrupts sleep like alcohol does. And I was like, oh no, but I got to get back to you on that. So I went home and did a little research, and your THC disrupts your sleep just like your alcohol does. If you're taking gummies like melatonin, that's shown to be more positive, something that you might want to consider if you're recovering from jet lag. It's a great way to help you sleep when you're flying from one side of the country to the other, but it's nothing that you want to stay on for a long period of time, simply because when you give your body a substance that is naturally made in your body goes, thanks. I guess I don't have to take care of that anymore. You're going to do that for me. So it kind of decreases what you make anyway. So all of the gummies that are THC and CBD do disrupt your sleep. Now, is there maybe a placebo effect? And that might have been why you even woke up that night because you were thinking, oh, I forgot to take my magnesium. That could be. Magnesium is a great supplement if you feel it may be lacking in your diet. It's extremely important. It plays a role in over 300 reactions in your body. And one of the most important ones is actually making ATP. You can't make ATP without magnesium. So if you are an active athlete and you are making a muscle contract and making that muscle relax, you got to have magnesium. When you cramp, it's because your muscle didn't relax. It's just like getting rigor mortis. The ATP didn't let it go.
And what foods naturally contain magnesium?
I think there are some brands of mushrooms that are hot, not brands, but species. Mushrooms, plants, seeds, beans, grains, your lean fish. If you're eating a balanced macro, all of your macros are included, and you're staying away from ultra processed food, and you're eating enough calories, because now we have to look at, I know I'm going to another subject and I'm not going to stay on it, but we have to look at GLP-1s. We have to look at people who aren't eating enough to get the nutrients that they need. And fatigue is a very big player in people that are on anti-obesity medicines. They're not exactly sure whether the fatigue is being caused by not enough calories, not enough water, or is it actually the medication that is causing fatigue? A ton of research coming out about that. So nutrition wise, stay away from your ultra processed food, drink your water, and eat a wide variety of lean protein, grains, beans, fruits and vegetables, leafy greens, the things that we know we should eat.
And on that note, I think we're gonna call it. I think you guys, Kelly, Christine, Melissa, Amber, this always amazes me how much I personally walk away with this and how you guys contribute. You're so generous with your time and your knowledge. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for joining us. We got people in the audience. I'm going to use plural. And Dan, thank you for managing this. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the Thursday before Midwest Mania. We're going to do another webinar. So we hope to see you then. Thank you for joining us.